Welcome back, everyone, to Then and Now. I'm Julian Zelizer of the Longview.
And I'm Jonathan Alter of Old Goats.
I was following the news and I saw that California Governor Gavin Newsom came out with a memoir, campaign book, whatever we want to call it this week. The title is A Young Man in a Hurry. And so instantly I thought to one of the classic books that we both know, Jimmy Carter's book, Why Not the Best, which comes out in 75 and then again as a paperback in 76. And it became a way in which he defined how he presented himself. He really talked about his background. He talked about everything from learning the Bible to his encounter with Admiral Hyman Rickover, which is where the title comes from, who pressed him about being the best. He talks about farming. He talks about running for governor and really gave people a kind of look into his background. It comes out in 75 with the religious press, which I forgot, Broadman Press, and it's re-released the next year in 76. It's a bestseller. And all of a sudden, this guy who was joked to be Jimmy Who, no one knew who he was when he was running, will emerge and become the nominee for the Democrats and obviously win the presidency. What do you think of when you kind of look back at that book and hear the news of the new memoirs coming out?
Well, I don't think that Gavin Newsom has anywhere near as interesting a life story as Jimmy Carter. It was really fresh when it came out. It wasn't just like a guy scheming to get ahead politically like Newsom for basically his whole career with a lot of powerful friends. I mean, the Newsom family grew up with the Gettys, He really had a lot of help, and he's honest about it in the book. But Jimmy Carter had this extraordinary story and all these many skills. And it was also very confessional. I mean, he talked about how when he was trying to get into the Naval Academy, he read that he couldn't have a problem with urine retention. And so he worried about, as he wrote in the book, the clinging drop. When I was writing my biography of Carter, I couldn't believe that he's writing about his urine in his campaign autobiography. He did sometimes give us TMI. That was a pattern with him. But in terms of the titles of the books, I think both of them, they have kind of memorable titles, but problematic. So, Young Man in a Hurry. That's not a person you necessarily want as president. I mean, one of the charming things about Carter's book is he writes that he wasn't interested in being president when he was a kid. He wanted to get ahead in farming and business and do something about education in his community, but he wasn't gunning to be governor or president the way Newsom was. But Carter played his own games with his book title. So the incident with Admiral Rickover and the nuclear navy was when he told Rickover where he stood in his college class, and Rickover asked him whether he'd done his best, and Carter said, "Not always." And Rickover said, "Why not your best?" And that's my book is called His Very Best, because my argument is for the rest of his life, he always did his very best at whatever he did. He was never on Miller time, this guy. But when the book comes out, the title is not Why Not Your Best, it's Why Not the Best. And it was a little bit like, hey, I'm the best. And even his own son, Jack, thought it was kind of egotistical to call his book Why Not the Best. But it did help propel him. And like Barack Obama's book about his father, it sort of presented Carter as a different kind of presidential candidate. And I think, unfortunately for Newsom, I'm not sure that his book does the same.
Well, that is a very insightful look at the titles and how the titles convey something in that comparison and with Carter himself. Anyway, that was Then and Now. John, great talking as always. Talk next week.
Talk later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.